When we look around and see division over everything from politics to patriotism, do we just shake our heads and assume that is just the way it is, or the way it has always been? When deep division sets in closer to home, in our church, our place of work, or in our families, then we want it healed. So does St. Paul, who urged the church of Philippi in our second reading, complete my joy by being of the same mind, with the same love, united in heart, thinking one thing. Do nothing out of selfishness or out of vainglory. Rather, humbly regard others as more important than yourselves. Paul touched upon the root of division, for the early church father Origen said, "Where there is division, there is sin," specifically the sin of pride. St. Paul spelled out the solution. Put others above yourself. That is, practice humility. Saints throughout history have prescribed the same remedy of humility. The Bishop St. Francis de Sales was returning from a trip when he fell deathly ill and took shelter at a convent. The sisters asked for one final word of wisdom in order to be more like Christ. Francis simply wrote, "Humility." When St. Pius X was elected pope, his mother taught him a quick lesson in humility. She kissed his papal ring, and then held out her own wedding band and said, "Now you kiss my ring, for without it, you would never have received yours." St. Philip Neri re-evangelized Rome by practicing humility through humor. To prevent people from thinking of him as a saint, he clowned around and appeared foolish. Sometimes he wore his clothes inside out. He would shave only half his beard, and instead of a hat, he would put a big blue cushion on his head. When the Pope made him a cardinal, he quietly placed the red, broad-brimmed cardinal's hat on Philip's doorknob. Later, Philip was seen playing frisbee with it in the park. Philip was also good at instilling humility into others. A pompous priest, who aspired to be a bishop, came to his house for dinner, and Philip in his humor brought out an organ grinder monkey dressed in a bishop's mitre and carrying a toy gun. That priest rethought his lofty ambitions. Philip had a pride-filled associate pastor that thought too much of his own preaching, so Philip ordered him to repeat the same sermon 6 Sundays in a row. Afterwards, parishioners called him the one-sermon priest. St. Peter struggled with practicing the virtue of humility. After setting out into the deep and collecting a large catch of fish, Peter realized that Jesus was God. Peter humbly dropped to his knees and said, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Later, at the Last Supper, Peter boasted, "Though all may have their faith in you shaken, mine will never be." Jesus responded that Peter would deny him 3 times. But Peter insisted, "Even though I should have to die with you, I will never deny you." Peter's pride caused the division during Jesus' trial. That is why Peter was absent at the crucifixion. St. Paul provided the best example of humility, Jesus. Jesus is God, yet he doesn't act like it in a prideful manner. Hence Paul wrote, "Have in you the same attitude that is also in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God something to be grasped." Paul's point is that we have been grasping at what is not rightfully ours since the beginning. Adam and Eve grasped at the forbidden fruit because they wanted to be God. The creature grasped at being the creator. Hence the first division between God and humanity arose. And by the second generation of humanity, division between family members. Cain killed Abel over jealousy. Again, Paul points to the solution. Jesus emptied himself on the cross. In other words, our pride is healed by Jesus' humility. By laying down his life, Jesus regarded us sinners as greater than himself. How far will Christ's humility go to heal our pride? In the Apostles' Creed, we say that Jesus descended into hell or the dead to gather souls. The further we run from the loving arms of the Father in our pride, the closer we run into the merciful arms of his Son. Humility is the remedy that must be applied to what divides us. What if we tried regarding others as greater than ourselves? The walls of division would soon fall. For Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen said, "The proud man counts his newspaper clippings, the humble man his blessings."